A kid walked into the most powerful translation company in America, carrying his father's old briefcase. "I'll give you $1 million if you can translate this," the CEO laughed, showing him a document in an ancient language. What happened next made his smile disappear forever. The security guard's hand shot up before Diego Ramirez could take 3 steps into Global Link translation services. "Kid, you can't be in here." The voice carried across the marble lobby, drawing stares from everyone in the reception area. "This is a professional building." Diego froze, clutching his father's worn briefcase against his chest. The leather was cracked, one hinge broken, held together with duct tape. But it was the last thing his father had touched before the accident 10 months ago. "I have an appointment," Diego said, steadier than he felt. "With Preston Whitmore." The room went silent. A 12-year-old kid in jeans too short and glued together sneakers didn't have meetings with CEOs. Especially not Preston Whitmore, the billionaire who'd built Global Link into an empire. "Right," the guard said, pulling out his tablet. "And I'm having lunch with—" "Let him through, Marcus." "Doctor." Rachel Morgan descended the curved staircase, her expression unreadable. His mother made the appointment 3 weeks ago. Rachel stopped herself. Before circumstances changed. Before Mom got so sick she couldn't work anymore, Diego thought. Before a serious, terminal illness. Before the doctor said weeks, maybe a month. Before everything became impossible. Rachel led him to the elevator without another word. As the doors closed, she spoke quietly. "Your father was Miguel Ramirez." Diego nodded, throat too tight to answer. "He was brilliant," Rachel continued. "One of our best translators. When he died, we all—" She stopped. "The company sent flowers." Diego remembered those flowers. Expensive arrangements that had made his mother cry with anger instead of gratitude. Because flowers didn't pay for coffins or medical bills or the rent they were already 3 months behind on. The elevator opened on the 24th floor. Rachel led him down a hallway lined with photographs of Preston Whitmore shaking hands with presidents and tech moguls. The conference room was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seattle, a table that could seat 20 people. Preston Whitmore sat at the head, flanked by 4 executives in expensive suits. They all stared at Diego like he was something that had crawled in from outside. "So," Preston said, leaning back with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "this is Miguel's son." The casual dismissal in his tone made Diego's hands clench. "His name was Miguel Ramirez," Diego said clearly. "And yes, I'm his son, Diego Ramirez." "Of course." Preston waved a hand as if the correction was irrelevant. "Dr. Morgan said you wanted to discuss your father's work here?" Diego set the briefcase on the conference table. 5 pairs of eyes tracked the movement. "My father worked here for 8 years, Diego began. "He specialized in rare languages, ancient dialects, indigenous languages that translation software can't handle. And for the last 2 years of his life, he was creating something, a translation algorithm, a completely new approach to understanding language patterns. Company property," one executive said immediately. "Any work done by our employees belongs to Global Link. Work done on company time, with company resources," Diego corrected. "My father did this at home. His own time, his own computer. He documented everything." He pushed a folder across the table. Dates, times, every hour. None of it on company time. Preston flipped through the folder, his interest clearly growing. "Even if true, your father's dead. Whatever he created would be his estate's, your mother's. My mother assigned the rights to me." Diego produced a legal document that had cost them $200 they couldn't afford. Before she got too sick to make decisions. "Sick?" Rachel asked gently. "A severe and advanced illness," Diego said, his voice cracking despite his effort to stay strong. "The doctors say weeks, maybe a month. She can't work. We lost our apartment. My sister Bella and I are staying with a friend, but..." He couldn't finish, couldn't say they'd be homeless soon, that he didn't know how to take care of an 8-year-old sister alone. The room fell silent. "I'm sorry," Rachel said quietly. Preston was studying the documents. "This algorithm, if it works as these notes suggest, it could be worth considerable money. $20 million, Diego said. Every head snapped up. "I had a computer science teacher look at the code. He said companies would pay at least that, maybe more. And you're 12 years old. Preston said, that cold smile returning. Claiming to own technology worth $20 million. I'm claiming to own what my father created, Diego corrected. What he spent 2 years building. What he was working on the night he died. The words hung heavy. Diego hadn't meant to say that part. Hadn't wanted to admit his father had been coding at 3 a.m., exhausted from double shifts, trying to finish one more function before bed. Hadn't wanted to admit that if his father hadn't been so tired, maybe he would have seen the red light. Quite a story, Preston said finally. But stories need proof. He pulled out a thick document. Your father's employment contract specifically states that any IP developed while working for Global Link belongs to the company. That's not legal for work done at home on personal time, Diego protested. Our lawyers disagree, Preston said smoothly, and they're excellent. He looked at Diego with something that might have been pity if it weren't so condescending. I'm sorry about your mother, but that doesn't change facts. Diego felt the world tilting. This was supposed to save them. Supposed to pay for treatments, give Bella a future. I'll prove it, Diego heard himself say. Give me a test. Any translation challenge. If I can prove the algorithm works, prove my father's research was real and valuable, you have to acknowledge it belongs to me. Preston's eyes lit up with something predatory. A test? Any translation you want. If I can do it using my father's methods, you admit the algorithm is real, that it has value. Preston smiled slowly. How's your ancient Sumerian? Diego felt ice in his stomach. Ancient Sumerian was one of the hardest dead languages. Maybe 50 people worldwide could read it fluently. His father had been one of them. Let's make this interesting, Preston continued. I'll give you $1 million if you can translate the Morrison document. It contains fragments in 9 different languages. Some haven't been spoken in thousands of years. Our entire department has worked on it for 6 months. If you can do it now, in this room, I'll pay you $1 million and we'll discuss your father's algorithm. And if I can't, then you leave. Stop claiming company property. Never contact Global Link again. Preston extended his hand. Deal. Rachel stepped forward. Preston, this is insane. He's a child. He can speak for himself. Preston cut her off, eyes never leaving Diego. Well, are you as smart as your father thought you were? The insult cut deep. Diego thought about his mom in that hospital bed, about Bella asking every night when mom was coming home, about his father working until 3 a.m., believing this algorithm would change their lives. I'll do it, Diego said, shaking Preston's hand. But I want witnesses, in writing. If I translate that document, you pay me $1 million and acknowledge my father's algorithm has value. Deal, Preston said, pulling out his phone. 20 minutes later, the room had filled with people. Word had spread. Junior translators lined the walls. Someone set up a camera. Preston placed a thick document in front of Diego, pages covered in different ancient scripts. The Morrison document, Preston announced. 9 different ancient civilizations. We've translated maybe 30% in 6 months. If this kid can do even half in an hour, I'll be impressed. Laughter rippled through the room. Diego opened his father's briefcase, pulling out a worn notebook filled with years of research on language patterns and phonetic relationships. Then he began to read. In the 3rd year of King Hammurabi's reign, Diego started, voice clear and steady. The priests of Babylon gathered to record the wisdom of the ancients. The room went quiet. That's Babylonian Akkadian, someone whispered. How did he? Diego kept reading, switching to the next section. Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics translated flawlessly into English. Then ancient Greek. Then Sanskrit. The murmurs grew louder. David, one of the executives, stood up to verify the translations against their database. His face went pale. He's right. Every single word. Lucky guesses, Preston said, but his voice had lost confidence. Diego switched to Old Persian. The room's energy shifted from mockery to shock. Stop, Preston said suddenly. Diego looked up. I said stop, Preston's voice cut sharp. This is ridiculous. You're reading from something, some cheat sheet. This proves nothing. I'm reading from my father's notes, Diego said, holding up the notebook. His research, the pattern recognition method the algorithm uses. Let him continue, Rachel said firmly. You made a deal, Preston. The deal was he'd translate the document, not read from old notebooks. Then test me without it, Diego said, closing the notebook and pushing it aside. No notes, just the document. Preston's eyes narrowed. Fine. Page 7. Classical Syriac. Without your cheat sheet. Diego looked at page 7. The script was dense, a language his father had spent months teaching him. He could hear his father's voice. Syriac is like a bridge, Diego. It connects ancient to medieval. Listen for the patterns. Diego began translating. Slowly at first, then faster, as patterns clicked into place. Not memorization, understanding. Because his father had taught him to see language as human thought made visible. When he finished, the room was silent. How? David breathed. Nobody learns classical Syriac at 12. My father started teaching me at 6, Diego said quietly. Every night after work. Every weekend. He said language was the greatest gift he could give me. This is insane, an executive muttered. Preston, if this is real. We stop this now, Preston interrupted, standing abruptly. This demonstration is invalid. The boy is using information stolen from this company. My father worked at home, Diego shouted, control breaking. On his own time, his own money. He stayed up until 3 a.m. while you paid him barely enough to feed his family. He gave everything, and you didn't even notice when he... Diego couldn't finish. The grief hit like a wave. His father hunched over that laptop at 3 a.m., so exhausted he could barely see straight, trying to finish one more function. Then getting in the car to drive to a warehouse shift because Global Link didn't pay enough. Not seeing the red light until too late. He's proven nothing, Preston said coldly. Except Miguel trained his son like a performing monkey. This doesn't prove the algorithm exists or has value, and it certainly doesn't prove we owe you anything. You promised $1 million, Rachel said, voice hard, in front of 30 witnesses. I said if he could translate it. He's done maybe 20%, not the deal. I can finish, Diego said desperately. Give me time. No, Preston said flatly. 1 minute to translate the next section. Page 12, Ancient Sumerian, or the deal is off. Diego flipped to page 12, hands shaking. The Sumerian was the hardest part. Even his father had struggled with this dialect. 50 seconds, Preston said, checking his watch with a cruel smile. Diego stared at the symbols, panic rising. He knew some Sumerian, but this dialect was different. 40 seconds. Think. Remember Dad's teaching. Language is patterns. Find the pattern. 30 seconds. He could see it now, pieces clicking into place. The way this dialect modified verbs connecting to later Akkadian. 20 seconds. Preston, this is cruel, Rachel protested. 10 seconds, Preston interrupted. 9, 8, 7. Diego opened his mouth, translation forming. Preston slammed his hand on the table. Time's up. Demonstration over. Deal void. He looked at Diego with cold satisfaction. You're talented, kid. But talent without results is worthless. You failed. I didn't fail, Diego said, voice shaking with fury. You changed the rules because you're scared. Scared of what? Of the truth. You know the algorithm is real. You know it's worth millions, and you know it doesn't belong to you. Prove it, Preston challenged. Show me code, documentation, something more than dead man's notebooks and party tricks. Party tricks. The words hit like a slap. The algorithm is on my father's laptop, Diego said quietly. The one in the car when... His voice broke. When the accident happened. Then produce it. The laptop was destroyed, Rachel said softly, checking her tablet. The accident report says damaged beyond recovery. Diego felt the floor drop. The laptop, the only proof, gone. Then we're done, Preston said, gathering papers. Security will escort you out. Don't come back. If you harass Global Link again, our lawyers will handle it. Wait, David said. The boy clearly has knowledge from somewhere. We've investigated enough. Meeting adjourned. The room emptied within minutes. Only Diego, Rachel, and Preston remained. I'm sorry, Diego, Rachel said. I'll help however I can. Don't offer false hope. Preston cut her off. His father is dead. The algorithm is gone. He has no proof. No case. The kindest thing is letting him move on. Rachel looked at Preston like she didn't recognize him. When did you become this person? I've always been this person. Diego picked up his father's briefcase, carefully placing the notebook inside. My father was right about you, Diego said, meeting Preston's eyes. He said you were brilliant, but empty. That you'd built an empire on others' work and convinced yourself you deserved it. He closed the briefcase. He said someday someone would prove you wrong. And you think that's you? No, it's my father. Even dead, he's still smarter than you'll ever be. And somehow, I'm going to prove it. Diego walked to the door, then turned back. That Sumerian section you gave me 1 minute for? I know what it says. Want to hear? Preston's expression flickered. The greatest thieves are not those who take gold, but those who steal credit from the dead. For gold can be replaced, but a man's legacy, once stolen, is lost forever. Diego let the words hang like an accusation. Is that what it really says? Rachel asked. Word for word, Diego confirmed. Funny coincidence, isn't it? He left before Preston could respond, walking through the lobby, out into Seattle rain. Behind him, Preston Whitmore stood frozen, because he'd just realized 3 things. 1, the algorithm was real. 2, the kid could actually translate ancient Sumerian. 3, he'd just made a very serious mistake. And Diego Ramirez, walking through rain with his father's briefcase, was about to make sure the whole world knew it. The video hit 2 million views in 6 hours. Diego didn't know that yet. He was sitting on a bench outside Seattle Public Library, rain soaking through his jacket, staring at his father's notebook like it might contain answers he'd missed. It didn't. The algorithm was gone, the laptop destroyed. And Preston Whitmore had 30 witnesses who'd seen Diego fail the translation test. Diego? He looked up. Rachel Morgan stood there with an umbrella, her professional suit replaced by jeans and a sweater. She looked different, smaller, more human. How did you find me? Diego asked. You mentioned your sister goes to Madison Elementary. The library is 3 blocks from there. I took a guess. Rachel sat down beside him, holding the umbrella over both of them. I wanted to apologize for what happened. Preston was cruel, deliberately cruel. He was protecting his company, Diego said flatly. That's what CEOs do, right? Not like that. Rachel pulled out her phone. Diego, you need to see something. She showed him the video. Someone in the conference room had recorded everything and posted it online. The title made Diego's stomach clench. Billionaire CEO humiliates genius kid, then realizes he's wrong. 2 million views, Rachel said quietly. And climbing. The comments are, well, people are angry. Very angry. Diego watched himself on the screen. Saw the moment Preston stopped him. Saw his own face crumble when time ran out. Saw Preston's cruel smile. Then he scrolled to the comments. This CEO is disgusting. That kid is clearly brilliant. I'm a linguistics professor. What that child did with those languages is extraordinary. My mother died from cancer last year. This hits different. That boy is fighting for his family and being crushed by a billionaire. Justice for Diego. There were thousands more. Diego's hands shook as he scrolled. It gets better, Rachel said. She pulled up another video. This one from the security camera in the lobby. Or worse, depending on how you look at it. The lobby footage showed Diego leaving, walking past the security guard. And then, clearly audible, Diego's voice. The greatest thieves are not those who take gold, but those who steal credit from the dead. The guard had asked what he meant. Diego had explained it was the Sumerian translation, the one Preston said he'd failed to complete. Someone leaked the lobby footage, Rachel said. It's been viewed 5 million times. People are comparing your translation to academic sources. Diego, you were right. Word for word correct. Diego felt something cold settle in his chest. So Preston knows I could have done it. That I only failed because he gave me 1 minute. Preston knows he made a mistake, Rachel corrected. A very public, very documented mistake. His phone has been ringing nonstop. Board members, investors, PR teams. This is becoming a disaster for Global Link. Good, Diego said with more bitterness than he'd known he possessed. Diego, I need to tell you something about your father. Rachel's voice dropped. Something I should have told you this morning. Diego turned to look at her fully. What? The accident. The official report says your father ran a red light, that he was at fault. Rachel took a breath.